The Baku was originally from China. Its appearance is more than a little strange, to put it mildly. It is described as having the body of a bear, the trunk of an elephant, the ears of a rhinoceros, the tail of an ox, and the feet of a tiger. Sounds a little scary, right? But no worries. The Baku is one of the good guys, and the reason it's placed among helpful yokai is mostly because of its diet. It goes the average dream catcher one better because it doesn't simply catch bad dreams, it devours them. It can apparently do the same thing to bad spirits, bad energy, and probably bad vibes. Children often had a small image of the Baku in the room where they slept to keep bad dreams away. However, if a bad dream did manage to creep in, the child could say a small charm. It's usually some variation on the phrase, "I give this dream to the Baku." You repeat it 3 times. Whereupon, at least in theory, the Baku would come and eat the nightmare, including any memory of it, and leave only good memories behind. The Baku wasn't simply a friend to children dealing with nightmares. Sometimes, when a person was nearing the end of their life, a small talisman in the image of the Baku would be placed in their hand. This was to keep evil spirits from bothering them in their final moments and give them a peaceful passing. Cheerful? No. Helpful? Very. Yet even with a creature as benevolent as the Baku, a little caution is wise and warranted. If your nightmares aren't substantial enough and the Baku is hungry enough, it can also feed on your hopes and aspirations. You don't want that. Even so, as full of nightmares as this world is, I would think that's a minor risk at most. I would be amazed if the Baku ever goes hungry. The Badion is a strange little yokai which usually manifests as an empty sack lying beside the road. When a human comes near it, it will perk up and ask the person to carry it. Now, if an empty sack was to ask me to carry it, I'd likely say no. But refusing would be a mistake. If you do agree to the request, there's a complication. The longer you carry the bag, the heavier it gets. This is a trait it shares with another yokai, the Obadion, originating in Nagata province. The name and habits of both suggest that they're likely a variation of the same creature, possibly a regional difference. The Obadion is a small yokai that likes to leap on travelers' backs and request a piggyback ride. It also gets heavier the longer you carry it. If it gets too heavy to carry and you collapse, you're either crushed or simply held on the ground by the weight until the Obadion gets bored and wanders off, depending on which version of the legend you met. On the other hand, if you have to put the Badion down, no hard feelings, it will just wait for the next person. However, if you do manage to carry the sack to your destination, suddenly all that weight you've been lugging turns into a bag of gold and jewels. Likewise, the Obadion in the same circumstances turns into a bag of gold. Lots more risk with the Obadion, though. Given the choice, I'd go with the sack. As for being helpful, a big bag full of treasure would help most of us. The name means sending off wolf. Like many other yokai of a dual nature, it can be either extremely dangerous or extremely helpful. You just need to know how to work it. The Okuri Okami often appears as a glowing wolf who follows travelers on lonely roads and mountain trails at night. Its intentions are unclear, but one thing is certain. If you were to trip and fall, it would catch up with you and it would eat you. And no, that does not sound very helpful. First rule of working with an Okuri Okami: don't trip. Second rule: if you do trip, act like you meant to do it. Say something like, "Good place to take a break," or the like, and oddly enough, the wolf yokai won't attack you. It will simply wait until you resume your journey and follow you as before. So how does any of this qualify as help? Simple. While the dark and powerful Okuri Okami is stalking you, very few other yokai and no human bandits would even dare think of attacking and stealing its prey. Whether it means to or not, the creature is in effect providing an escort and keeping you safe. Once you do reach your destination, it is considered polite to thank the Okuri Okami for seeing you off. It's also customary to leave a dish of food, especially rice, and salty azuki beans, which the creature is thought to prefer, out as a reward. Once you've done this, the Okuri Okami will never stalk you again. In an earlier video, I mentioned that the difference between a ghost and a yokai was often razor thin. Sometimes the difference between a yokai and a god is on the same level. Another import from China, the Shōjō is an interesting creature. A human-like face, long red hair all over its body, and a definite love of sake, which they often brew themselves. They are usually found along the coast and are associated with the ocean, and in some accounts live in it. They are always cheerful and friendly toward people they consider good. As for the ones they think bad, consider the following story. Once there was a poor old man and his teenage son. One day the man felt very ill, and knowing that sake always made him feel better, he asked his son to get some. Well, they had no money, but the dutiful son took an empty gourd and went to see if he could beg or borrow sake for his father. The son wasn't having much luck until he came to the beach. In a nearby pine grove, he saw two strange creatures laughing and drinking sake from a barrel. Not knowing what they were, he was hesitant, but they smiled and waved him over. The boy politely explained that his father was ill and wanted sake, but he had no means to pay. They didn't care about that. They cheerfully filled his gourd from their barrel and sent him on his way. The son hurried home and brought the gourd to his father. When the old man drank it, he said it was the most heavenly sake he had ever tasted, and felt better almost immediately. Seeing the good this drink did for his father, the son resolved to return to the grove the very next day. Again, he was warmly welcomed, and the son told the generous creatures how much the drink had helped his father. Again, they gladly filled his gourd and sent him home, and his father continued to improve. This went on for a few more days, with the boy's father getting stronger every day. Unfortunately, the father and son had a bad-tempered neighbor who also liked sake and noticed what was happening. When the son returned from the grove one day, he accosted the boy outside and took the gourd away. Yet when he drank from the gourd, he found the sake tasted horrible, and he spit most of it out. He accused the boy of deliberately tricking him into drinking swill. Of course, the son hadn't tricked him into anything, and he told the neighbor of the two-eyed creatures and their sake barrel. He swore it was the same as what his father drank. The neighbor forced the boy to take him to the grove and prove it. Sure enough, when they reached the grove, the two creatures greeted the son kindly and asked if his father needed more sake. The boy told them what had happened and what his neighbor had done with the previous gourd. At this point, the neighbor swore at them and dipped the gourd into the barrel without even asking. When he drank this time, he almost retched, the taste was so vile. By now their host had quite enough of their rude visitor. "We are Shōjō of high rank," one of them declared. "Our home is in the ocean near the palace of the Dragon King, and our brew is magic. To the righteous, it tastes as sweet as heaven and gives health and long life. To the unrighteous, it is poison, and poison is what you drank." It took a great deal to get through to the bad-tempered neighbor because of his stubbornly wicked nature, but that did the trick. He fell to his knees and humbly begged the Shōjō to forgive him, and he swore him into his ways if they would save his life. Judging his contrition to be sincere, the Shōjō gave him a powder to mix with the sake to remove the poison. This time when he drank, he tasted the heavenly sweetness, and knew beyond any doubt that what the son and the Shōjō had told him was true. From that day forward, the neighbor was a changed man. Eventually, he and the son's father started a brewery based on a recipe the Shōjō gave them. While their brew did not have the same magic, it was still very fine sake, and their families prospered. Not only that, now they both had the virtue of the Shōjō's original brew and lived long, happy lives. Clearly, the Shōjō must be included among the ranks of the helpers, but only to those who, in their estimation, deserve it.